What happens when a team creates a rule it can't take back? In Monza, McLaren told Oscar Piastri to step aside for Lando Norris, and Toto Wolff says that single call may have opened a Pandora's box. Picture this. Norris, stuck with a painfully slow pit stop, drops behind Piastri. Suddenly, McLaren intervenes. They ask Piastri to give the place back, even though Oscar insists the deal was clear. Pit stop delays wouldn't trigger team orders, and yet he moves over. Now Wolff has jumped in with a warning. You've set a precedent that's very hard to undo. Coming from the man who lived through Hamilton versus Rosberg in 2016, that isn't just idle talk. It's a reminder that once you choose a side, the consequences echo all season. So here's the real question. Did McLaren just cross a line they can't redraw? Think about the timing. Just 1 week earlier, Norris lost a massive haul of 18 points in Zandvoort after his car gave up on him, a blow so big that he admitted was partly his fault. Fast forward to Monza, and suddenly McLaren are stepping in to claw points back for him. Coincidence? Or a deliberate tilt in the title fight? For Piastri, it's a bitter pill. He'd done everything right, executed his stop cleanly, and still ended up giving away 6 points. 6 points may not sound like much, but in a championship battle this close, it's the kind of swing that decides who lifts the trophy in Abu Dhabi. And that's exactly why Toto Wolff's comment cuts so deep. Because if McLaren step in for Norris today, how do they say no tomorrow? Where's the line between fixing an injustice and manipulating the championship? Remember Mercedes in 2016? Wolff only pulled the trigger when Hamilton and Rosberg were on the brink of destroying each other. Wheel-to-wheel, contact, chaos. That was the line. Intervene only if the house is about to burn down. McLaren's situation is different. Norris and Piastri aren't enemies. They're not clashing in the garage. They're not threatening to tear the team apart, which is why this order feels so out of place. Instead of firefighting, McLaren may have started a fire of their own. And Piastri's radio tells the story. He agreed, yes, but his tone said it all. Reluctant, unconvinced. He followed the call because he's still the junior, still proving himself. But what happens when he's no longer willing to play the good soldier? Here's the catch. Norris did nothing wrong. He was simply unlucky with a sticky left front wheel in the pits. But from Piastri's point of view, why should he pay for a team error? Imagine crossing the line knowing you gave away points not on track, but in a boardroom-style call. That stings. And that's the precedent Wolff is hammering at. If one slow pit stop means swapping back, then what about next time? What if a car doesn't fire up at the grid? What if suspension fails? Does every team mistake come with a free correction at the expense of the other driver? This isn't just about fairness. It's about opening the floodgates. Because once you start playing referee in situations this gray, you're no longer letting the drivers decide. You're manufacturing results. And don't forget, this isn't happening in a vacuum. The championship gap between Norris and Piastri is razor thin. Before Monza, Oscar had 34 points in hand. After this order, that lead shrinks to 31. Not catastrophic, but enough to shift the psychological momentum. Momentum matters. In F1, 3 points can mean arriving at the next race with confidence or with doubts eating away at you. And McLaren knows that, which is why many fans are asking, was this about fairness or about making sure their golden boy stays in the hunt? Sky Sports analysts were quick to highlight how unusual this was. You don't often hear team bosses voluntarily creating rules that trap them later in the season. And Wolff's smirk in Monza's paddock said it all. He's seen where this road leads. Look closely at McLaren's wording after the race. They defended the call as restoring the original order. But what does that even mean in a sport where nothing is guaranteed? A slow stop, traffic in pit lane, a gust of wind in turn 1. It all reshuffles the deck. By framing it this way, McLaren almost suggested there's a true running order that exists beyond what happens on track. And that's dangerous territory, because if results can be corrected retroactively, then where does racing stop and politics begin? Compare that to Piastri's reaction. He later called the decision fair, but his body language told a different story. Tight smile, clipped words. It sounded more like damage control than conviction. Fans noticed, and so did rival teams. The irony, McLaren may have created tension they didn't need. Unlike Hamilton and Rosberg, Norris and Piastri don't hate each other. There's no toxic rivalry, no shouting matches in the motorhome. But tension doesn't always come from anger. Sometimes it comes from doubt. If Oscar begins to feel the team won't back him when it matters, that seed grows. And if Norris senses that the team is bending rules in his favor, he'll expect it again. That's how a small crack becomes a fracture. And Toto Wolff, ever the strategist, knows it. By publicly warning about precedents, he's planting a narrative. McLaren could lose control of their drivers the way Mercedes almost did in 2016. Except this time, the fight isn't personal, it's philosophical. So here we are. 1 order, 6 points, and a warning from Toto Wolff echoing through the paddock. McLaren may have written a rule they can't erase. Was it the right call? If you ask the team, it was about fairness. If you ask Piastri, his words say yes, but his eyes say, I'm not so sure. And if you ask Wolff, he'll tell you this will only get messier when the championship is on the line in the final races. Fans are already split. Some say McLaren protected the integrity of the fight. Others believe they've tilted the scales in Norris's favor. And that's the beauty and the danger of Formula One politics. So let's put it to you. Should McLaren stick to this precedent or let their drivers fight freely from now on? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this debate is far from over.